Hi guys, I'm Alex from Mason Lifestyle. On today's video, we're going to be doing a sew along for the lander pants, mostly the shorts. We are going to be doing a sew along for the lander shorts with the zipper expansion. And if you are doing the lander pants with a longer length, this will give you a pretty good idea how to tackle those. All right guys, let's get started. Hi guys, so first things first, I want you to grab your pattern piece. And usually we're about to do a dart, and usually what I do is I just slice where I need that dart, and then I put it, right? I put it on my my pattern piece, and I draw in my dart, and then I go ahead and pin it. So you are going to do your darts. So go ahead and start at the raw edge, go down. Don't forget the back stitch right here. And at the end, you're going to lift your needle, and then you are going to tie that knot by hand. Go ahead and do both darts. Once you're done with that, I want you to go ahead and press those towards the center back. Go ahead and do that now. So I got that done. There's my dart, and I pressed it towards the center back, okay? So now I'm gonna go ahead and put my back pieces off to the side, and I'm gonna grab my pockets. And remember, you have to interface the top of your pockets, and you also have some notches right at the sides. So the pattern is asking you to go ahead and fold about 1/4 of an inch, and then fold right where it has that fold line in your pattern piece. Okay, so go ahead and do that now. And once you do that, I want you to stitch 1/2 inch on both sides. Once you do that, you can go ahead and cut this at an angle because you're trying to reduce some of that bulk, okay? And you're going to turn over your pockets, and you have 1/2 inch all around. So go ahead and take this to your pressing station, okay? You're going to turn this, make sure that you are poking out your corners, okay? Give it a good press and make sure that all of this is folded 1/2 inch, okay? Go ahead and do that now for both of your back pockets. So I got my pockets done. I use my point turner to point those, and then I also use my seam gauge, right, to make sure that everything's even. So I'm happy with those. Now the pattern is asking you to go ahead and stitch, right at that fold line. Go ahead and top stitch right there where you folded your pocket, okay? So go ahead and do that now. Go ahead and top stitch. So I went ahead and top stitched my pocket. There it is, okay? Now you have those dots on your pattern. Let me show you, right? You have these dots on your pattern corresponding to your size. So go ahead and make sure that those are marked on your pattern, and go ahead and pin your pockets, okay? So you have some guides at the top and at the bottom. Go ahead and do that, and I want you to edge stitch your pocket in. So start at the top. I usually do 2 stitches, and then just kind of come down my pocket, turn, and then another 2 stitches, and then come back down. And then I do just 2 rows. So go ahead and do that now for both of your back pockets. I went ahead and stitched in my pockets, and I put a little bit of bar tacks right at the top, okay? So take your time with those. And if you want designs on your pockets, or you want to make them octagonal, or you want to round the corners, you can do all of that. I just went with a simple rectangular pocket. So now I want you to grab your front pockets and your front pocket lining that you had to cut 2 front pockets, and then also 2 of your lining. The pattern is also asking you to go ahead and for your lining, take 1/8 of an inch away And what you are going to do is you are going to stitch, right? Going to go ahead and stitch on this edge, and then you're also going to stitch on these two edges. Okay, so 1/2 inch. Go ahead and do that now. Keep this part, the top, open, and then keep the side open so we can turn the lining inside. Go ahead and do that now for both of your front pockets. So I stitched my lining to my front pocket, and again, that's going to be right sides together. And you're going to leave the top open in the side, okay? Because what we're going to do is we are going to turn the pocket lining in. Okay? Again, grab your point turner, always good stuff, and just pin out those corners. And just take this to your pressing station and press your pocket towards the inside. Okay? Go ahead and do that now for both of your pockets. I got my pockets done. Here they are, okay? I just went ahead and pressed them really nicely. I got a little bit peeking up in here, but not worried about that. Got a little bit of a fun fabric and for my lining, but if it bothers you, they tell you just grab a pin it like that, right? So it all kind of stays inside. All right, so I went ahead and stitched that curved area. These are my fronts. You have notches on the side, but this is where that goes. And then I want you to go ahead and pin, right? And I want to make sure that you go ahead and you edge quasi top stitch like we did our back pockets. Go ahead and do that now. Go ahead and top stitch your front pockets to your shorts front. Go ahead and do that now. So I went ahead and edge stitched my pocket, and I also basted at the top and on the sides, just so when we are sewing the sides and sewing the waistband to the pattern, it's not moving on you. So go ahead and baste that in, right? I want to say this too. When you have curve here in the pockets, I wanted some of my fabric because it's kind of fun just to peek a little bit. If you don't want that, just go ahead before you top stitch your pocket in and you turn it over. Make sure that you clip in your corners. It just relaxes the fabric, okay? But I usually kind of want to have a little bit of fun since my print is a lot. Once you do that, I want you to grab your back piece and I want you to stitch these two together. So go ahead and pin. Go ahead and pin and stitch. Don't forget the back stitch at the start and at the end, and do that for both sides, for the back and the front. Okay, go ahead and do that now. I stitched my front to my back piece, and then I also went ahead and serged this, and I did that for both left and right side. And now I want you to take your left fly, okay, and make sure you make that dot right there. I want to make sure that you pin, okay, and notice that I have this also serged, okay, and I want to make sure that you stitch from the raw edge right here to that dot. Back stitch right there, but don't go any further than that, okay? Again, from the raw edge at the top to that dot that's in your pattern piece. And make sure that you are using the left hand fly for your zipper expansion and not the one that came with the original pattern that has a button fly. Go ahead and do that now. I got it stitched in, okay, my left hand fly. And now I'm going to take it to my pressing station and press this down, okay? And I am going to stitch really close to the edge. So almost like right there on the edge, okay? All the way down. So go ahead and do that now. So we attach that. Now I want you to grab your 2 front pieces and your 2 back pieces, and where you put that dot right there, I want you to go ahead and stitch to that spot and make sure that your allowances match right here. Okay, there, it's perfect. So go ahead and pin. So again, I want you to stitch from the raw edge at the top, 1/2 inch, all the way down, and then you stop right at that dot. Remember, that's on your pattern, right at that dot. Go ahead and do that now. All right, now that I stitched that right there, I want you to go ahead and flip your, I want you to go ahead and flip your pants so you're looking at it inside. And I want you to grab your zipper, and you are 1/2 inch from the edge. Okay, 1/2 inch from the edge. And I want to make sure that you just pin this right here. Guys, and if you want to do it like this, whichever way is easier, okay? 1/2 inch from the edge. That's where I want you to pin it. You just stitched in 3/4 of an inch from the top. So again, grab your seam gauge, 1/2 inch from the edge, okay? And then 3/4 from the top, right there, okay? And you see where I have the blue, this right here? Because of course I had to get a black zipper, because Joann's now is MIA, so I couldn't get like any fun colors or anything like that. So that's where I want you to stitch, okay? Don't worry about the zipper pull. Don't try to be pushing it this way and getting it straight, okay? Just go ahead and stitch around it, because this is gonna flip inside, okay? So you're not gonna see that stitching. So go ahead. Make sure that you have a zipper foot on your machine and stitched around that area right there all the way down. Go ahead and do that. All right, so you see my zipper foot. I'm going to try to do this with one hand. Don't forget the back stitch. And you see again my zipper pull. I'm not worrying about it right now. Okay. Let me get my fabric straight. And back stitch. So I went ahead and stitched my zipper, okay? So now it's like that. We're gonna go like that, and I'm gonna pin this in place, okay? I'm just gonna pin it right there. I'm moving it there just because I wanna make sure that it doesn't move on me, but I don't wanna stitch this just yet. Okay, so now I want you to grab your zipper. Okay, right here, I want you to open it up. Get this off to the side. And I want you to okay. Remember that little flap that you cut? Okay. Okay, let's see. I want to make sure that that matches at the top, right? That this overlaps over the right side ever so slightly, okay? All right, now, I'm gonna open my zipper up and I want you to stitch on this edge, okay? See that right there? So again, on this edge. Go ahead and do that now. Go ahead and stitch your right side of the zipper. So I stitched in that side of the zipper, okay? There it is, okay? Zip it back up. And I'm gonna take these pins out, okay? So we got that in, right? And we can open or close our zipper, right? Okay, so now if you have your pattern, you have this stitching guide. Obviously it is for, what's it called? It is for your lander pants when you have buttonholes. I would say it cannot be this big, and it's in between these two, and the pattern does not provide some sort of stitching guide, so you almost have to kind of make your own or print this again and just make it somewhat smaller. But let me show you what you're supposed to do, right? So you have your stitching guide, and what you really want to do is make sure that when you stitch that you are catching this piece, right? So you definitely want to make your mark and just kind of go with it all the way around. I'm going to just go ahead and do that now. Go ahead and use your stitching guide just so when you are top stitching the fly that it just looks nice, because it'll be front center. All right, so I went ahead and drew that in. Can you guys see it? I hope you can. So I'm gonna take this to my sewing machine and I'm just going to go ahead and stitch. And I went ahead and put 2 pins in here because I wanna make sure that that fly over there is towards the left-hand side, okay? So go ahead and do that now. Okay, so here it is. All right, I went ahead and top stitched, and now I'm gonna put this off to the side. All right, so I put that off to the side, and now I'm gonna grab this piece. I'm gonna flip that over, and I want you to stitch down here, okay? I want you to go ahead and stitch down here 1/2 inch, flip it over, and then I want you to serge. Go ahead and do that. So there it is, okay? Now make sure that you trim that, and that you flip this over, okay? I'm gonna poke that corner with my point turner, and that you give this a good press, and also that you take this to your serger and then you finish that edge. Go ahead and do that now. All right, So this is what my piece looks like. Now I want you to go ahead and open, right? And bring this area down. I want you to grab this, okay? And the pattern doesn't tell you like how far off this is. So what I tend to do is just use my ruler. See, 1 inch, 1 inch and a quarter. So that is right there. Okay. That's kind of like how much it should fly past. Make sure that you measure this. Okay. So again, 1 inch and a quarter pin. Okay. So now you see where you stitched that time before. I want you to stitch right over that again. Go ahead and do that now. Go ahead and put that in. And really what you're trying to do is, right, make sure that when you are wearing your pants that your zipper is covered. Okay, go ahead and do that now. All right, you see it? So now my, say, fly shield, right? Now that that is in, you can close it. This is what it looks like from the back, okay? And I know that you can't go all the way down because your zipper pull is right there. Go ahead and do some bar tacks right here. I like to do one here and then another one like around here, just so things are not moving. And I'm gonna go ahead and do that right now. Something that is also not in the pattern, I like to do a stitch going down the center middle, and I keep going all the way down the back. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to catch my seam allowance in the back, okay? So I usually like to do that, guys, because we are wearing pants and right, or we're putting a lot of stress in the crotch area, in the back, in the bum. So you just want to have a little bit extra reinforcement in there that is not on the pattern. But it's one of those things that I always do for pants because, right, it's just good to have a little extra stitch or even a triple stitch right here on the crotch area, because it just gets a lot of stress when you're wearing your pants, you're walking, you're sitting, right? So go ahead and do that now. All right, so we stitched that in all the way down, right? And it keeps going down the center front. We stopped right there. So now I'm gonna put your pants together. And it's asking you to stitch the sides. And guys, this is one of those things where a lot of people that I've seen sometimes do their landers and they are like, uh-oh, where did I go wrong here? So your landers have a 1 inch seam allowance on the sides. And I actually wish more pattern designers do this for their pants, because it's really easy to kind of like adjust your pants. But one thing that you have to keep in mind is like, for example, myself, I am a little larger on the waist. So usually when I cut my waistband, I usually leave it towards the end. And then I also give myself extra waistband, right? And this is probably, I gave myself maybe 1.5 inches on each side. Yeah, a little bit more than 1.5 inches, just as a little safety thing. Also, if you are gonna try on your pants, which some people usually say don't do it without a waistband, but I'm thinking, well, how are you supposed to try on your pants? If you are going to do that, before you even put them on, I would definitely say, go ahead and stay stitch this waistline right there, just to make sure that it doesn't stretch on you, okay? So once you do that, and you like where things are at, okay, then go ahead and stitch your side seams. Again, the seam allowance on this is 1 inch. So you are going to, 1 inch, try them on, see if you need a little more to take it in or a little less. And even before you do that, stay stitch all of this right there on that waistband so it doesn't stretch on you. So when you go to put on your waistband, it's not like, oh my God, what just happened here? All right, go ahead and do that now. All right, so I stitch my side seams. I also serge those, okay? So now I want you to grab your waistband. It has to be interfaced. And the pattern is asking you to go ahead and press the area that's unnotched, right? 3/8 of an inch up, okay? Once you do that, and this is where I'm going to deviate from the pattern a little bit, because remember, I added a little bit of seam allowance to my waistband. And the reason why I do that, the pattern doesn't tell me how much I have a gap for this. So I usually like to give myself a little bit of extra and we'll be okay. So with that in mind, right, I usually like to start from the center back, and then I'll know I'll have plenty to go around. So go ahead and pin your waistband, center back. Go ahead and do that now. So I pinned my waistband, and woohoo, looks like I am okay. So I can definitely cut this seam allowance, but I'm going to stitch my waistband, so 1/2 inch all the way around, okay? And don't forget to back stitch at the start and all the way to the end. And then I'm going to add, right, keep some seam allowance, because what's going to happen is we're going to flip this over, right, and then bring it in. So go ahead and do that now. Go ahead and stitch your waistband. Okay, so I stitched my waistband, right? I can still zip things up. See how nice the zipper pull looks? Looks pretty darn nice, okay? And nothing's like peeking out or anything. So now, right, I have this extra seam allowance here from the waistband. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna fold this, okay? And I wanna give myself a 1/2 inch seam allowance, because that is what we are going to be, needing to do that. That's like around, I'm gonna give myself just a little bit extra right there, right? And when I get to the sewing machine, I can cut it. Same thing on this side, okay? And I should have been okay. With the other seam allowance, but I always say there's nothing wrong with giving myself just a little extra stuff, right? And make sure that you are just cutting what you need, okay? So now that you have this like this, I want you to fold, okay? I want you to fold. I'm gonna pin this a little bit right here. And I want you to stitch from, right? And you're trying to follow the edge right here, right? All the way down. Same on this side. So you're going to have to fold your waistband. And remember, when we turn this towards the inside, we want to make sure that we are catching this, okay? So guys, you can also trim your seam allowance. I kind of like to have it a little extra because in the past I've cut it and somehow after 2 million washes, my pants start disintegrating a little bit. But go ahead and pin right here, right? And you are going to stitch from that corner end. And you want to make sure that your waistband, right? The one on the inside is just a little bit further down, because when you stitch in the ditch, you want to make sure that that is catching on the inside. Okay, so go ahead and stitch on both of those ends. Go ahead and do that now. So we got that done on both sides. I'm gonna cut some of that seam allowance, and also I want to cut a little bit right there. And you are just going to fold this again. Let me see where my point turner. Okay, so it's looking pretty good on that side. And then same for this side. Cut my seam allowance, cut that off. Point turner, implicate the corner. Okay, now I want you to grab your waistband here and I want you to press it. Press all the way around. Okay, so go ahead and do that now. So I went ahead and turned my waistband and I pressed it. You see how this center matches. I'm gonna kind of put that little bit there, but that matches. Make sure that matches. Make sure the top matches, right? So now I want you to stitch in the ditch. Stitch in the ditch means that you are stitching right on that, kind of like the ditch. And what you are doing is you are catching your waistband from the back. Okay, and definitely always suggest going ahead and pinning just so your waistband doesn't move. Or if you have some of that tape that just kind of like hem tape, you can also do that. Just make sure nothing's moving on you and just stitch in the ditch. Okay, so that's what I want you to do now. I want you to stitch in the ditch and see how I'm pinning here, but this is the inside, because when I stitch right there, it's gonna catch it, or you hope it does, right? So pin all the way around. And guys, if you are thinking, oh my God, she didn't do the belt loops. I don't wear belts. They don't make belts for my size. And since I don't wear them, I'm not out there looking for them. Maybe they do exist. I haven't seen them. I haven't looked for them. So again, just make sure that you stitch in the ditch all the way around. Take your time, okay? Go ahead and do that now to catch your waistband in the side. Go ahead and do that now. So I stitch my waistband in, okay? See that right there? And it caught, right? So now that I got that done, I have to do my buttonhole and attach my button, and then you have your hem. Definitely make sure that you serge the ends. And I usually do just I turn it up, but I know that she has something like turn a quarter and then turn again, which is really nice, but I need all this inseam I can get. So I'm just going to go ahead and serge and then turn it up. I would say probably like an inch or so. Guys, that is it. That is your lander pants with a zipper expansion. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave them below. I'm going to put a couple of links down below in the comment box, in the info box, in case you need a picture by picture tutorial on the zipper. If you look under the Danny pants, again, we're doing the lander pants with a zipper expansion pack, but the Danny pants from True Bias also have the same type of zipper. So if you need a kind of like a picture by picture, where do I go? How do I do this? It's on her website. So I will go ahead and link all of that. And I will also go ahead and link the pattern and the zipper expansion that you will need to do this sew along. All right, guys, if you like this video, please give a thumbs up and I will see you next time. Bye. All right, guys, I hope you like that sew along. If you have any questions or comments, go ahead and leave them below and I will see you next time.